Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Hally Ammons. As the Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations at Villanova University, I'm delighted to bring you the extraordinary people making an impact on our campus community and beyond. Today, I will be introducing you to a group of people working to make sure that Villanova students are informed, engaged, and ready to vote in this year's general election. In 2019, Villanova students developed a nonpartisan civic engagement initiative called Let's Vote Nova to get students educated on voter registration and participation. In partnership with the Office of Student Involvement, Let's Vote Nova is an annual effort geared to make sure students understand how to register and to help them make a plan for Election Day. First, I'll be speaking to two of our students and a faculty member, Dr. Hally Levin and Anna O'Keefe and Sylvia Alland. This semester, they have been volunteering for Let's Vote Nova and discussing the election in their class. I'm so pleased to welcome you all this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for joining me. Dr. Levin, I want to start with you first. If you could just introduce yourself and tell us about how long you've been at Villanova and which department do you work in?
Sure. So I've been at Villanova since 2019, and I work in the Department of Communication, where we have a wide array of offerings from media production to public relations to performance studies and rhetoric. And so this class that I'm teaching right now is called Media and Politics, and it brings together students from across our major and across the political science department as well, to really understand the relationship between media and politics, how one influences the other. And it's an amazing group of students, as you'll find out today. It's a real privilege to be in this department and work with this group of students.
That's great. And I had the privilege to be able to come to your class too, so I got a chance to see a little bit of it in action, and that's really amazing. Can you talk a little bit about how you incorporated Let's Vote Nova into your work this semester?
Sure. So when I've taught this class in the past, Media and Politics, I had students develop a hypothetical get out the vote campaign. And they came up with wonderful ideas, and it was a really exciting project. And the last time I taught it was 2020, and it was during the height of the coronavirus pandemic. And I thought the next time I teach this, I want to put them to work and have them do this for real and make a difference and actually register people to vote. And so I had heard of Let's Vote Nova, and over the summer I reached out to J.J. Brown, the director of the Office of Student Involvement, of course, and he was so willing to explore this partnership. I got to meet you, and we were able to develop some assignments for students to understand what it means to register voters in this complex area that we live in. And they've put in the work, as you'll hear. They've presented to classes, they've tabled, they've reached out to student organizations, and they're going to be volunteering on Election Day, which is very exciting as well.
It is, and I got a chance to see them in action. It's made a huge difference, especially when students are engaging with their peers. It makes a tremendous difference in getting folks educated and up to speed. I'm going to turn to the students and have them introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their experience. Anna O'Keefe, could you tell us where you're from and what you're majoring in and what your year is?
Yeah, so my name is Anna O'Keefe. I am a senior at Villanova, double majoring in political science and communication. So when I found out that Dr. Levin was offering this class, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity because it is the cross-section of my two interests. And I think I answered all the questions. I'm not sure. I'm from Washington, D.C. So I grew up in Chevy Chase, Maryland, just outside of D.C., in kind of the epicenter of politics. So it's something I've always been involved in, but especially coming to Pennsylvania, which is like a very important state in both this election and every election. It's great to have the opportunity to kind of combine my interests with a class.
It's great. That is great. That is really just a perfect storm of all of those things coming together.
Exactly.
And Sylvia Alland, tell us where you're from and what your major is and what your year is.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Alland. I'm from Denver, Colorado, far from here. I'm a communications major at Villanova. I'm a senior. I also study Japanese. And yeah, I heard about this class earlier this year, and I was just really excited because I remember voting on this campus previously, and it was really exciting to be able to get involved.
Great. And I'm going to stay with you, Sylvia, for just a moment and ask you about how has volunteering with Let's Vote Nova this semester, has that impacted your view of civic engagement? Has it informed your has it informed you on the process? And ultimately, what are you hoping that you and your peers get out of this year's election?
I think that volunteering with Let's Vote Nova has made me realize just how difficult it is to be civically engaged. I think that a lot of times we get really down on young people for being for not voting, not turning out, having lots of loud opinions online, but maybe not coming to the polls when it matters. And I've kind of just realized that there's a lot of barriers in place, especially for college students, that make it really, really hard to register to vote, to be able to vote. So one of my goals for this, for participating in Let's Vote Nova, is to kind of reduce some of those barriers, help make it easier for people, but also just to educate people on our campus about, like, it is not your fault. We want to enable you, but also know, like, a lot of things are hard, and we understand that it's difficult to get involved meaningfully, and we're here to help you do that.
That's great. And I'm going to ask you the same question, see what your perspective on volunteering, getting folks registered, and how that's informed you for this year.
It's definitely informed me, and I actually did a bunch of grassroots organizing for the 2020 election, and was really promoting just like registering to vote, both in Pennsylvania and nationwide. But I think through the power of Let's Vote Nova, having the backing of the university is crucial to the success of this campaign, because while like my individual work, like I know did not go unnoticed, it's really hard to motivate students when they don't have like a stationary platform to kind of go to. And social media specifically, because Let's Vote Nova has a lot of that. Also, 2020 was at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so we weren't allowed to do any in-person organizing. So I think that being able to actually engage with students not only over social media, and really like talk with students by the Oreo or go to classrooms and answer questions has really shown like how powerful that aspect of civic engagement is, but also how exhausting it is. Like, it's not a simple process. It does take time and commitment, and it also takes an understanding from us as students and our faculty of what that process is, because if we don't understand it ourselves, how do we explain it to other people?
I think that's an excellent point, and it's not always as intuitive as maybe folks believe, and there's a lot to know. So I know that your efforts have certainly gone a long way. I'll bring it back to you, Dr. Levin, and this is really more of a question for the group. How have you seen, and I think you touched on it a bit, students, is there enthusiasm among students to get involved? Not just students in your class, but maybe students you've interacted with in your tabling and your volunteering efforts. Are folks enthusiastic? Are they energized? Are they wanting to vote this year? Have you seen a lot of first-time voters? Just give me a sense of what the environment is like on campus.
Sure. So I can speak, of course, to the experience of my students to some degree, but also from what I've heard from others. I will say the 30 students in the class came into the class with varying levels of political participation, and what I've been really excited by is they all seem very knowledgeable and very enthusiastic about getting out there to vote if it's their first time or if they've done this 3 times before. So I think that's great to see and to feel part of something that's making a positive difference on campus. And I think we're all really united on that. In terms of other students on campus, I do get the sense that people are excited to try voting for the first time, potentially in person. And they want to vote however they can, but there's something exciting about actually going to the polls and being there and feeling that energy. And that makes me really excited too. I tell my students all the time that voting is a habit. And so, if you voted many times before, you continue that habit. That's a great habit. And it's never too late to start a new habit, a good habit. So I do think there is energy, and I hope that momentum continues, not just in future elections, not in future midterm elections, presidential elections, but also local elections as well.
Absolutely. And I was recently speaking with the previous SGA president about this, and she used a really great phrase in regards to Let's Vote Nova and how she hoped when they were developing it to create lifelong voters and to start that good habit. So that's really very exciting. And I'll put the question to you both as well. How are you, when you're interacting with your peers on campus, are you seeing energy around this year's election? Are people enthusiastic? Are they ready to vote? Have they voted already? Are you both first-time voters, or have you been to the rodeo before? So I'll let you start it.
Luckily, it's not luck thing. I have voted before, but I'm excited to vote again. I think the general perception, especially from doing a couple hours of tabling, is a lot of students are like prepared and ready, because we would stop students all the time, like call out people's names and be like, come over to our table, come talk to us. What's your plan? And everyone had a plan already, which does make me think that it is a habit for a lot of people. So I know a lot of people in my grade, as we are seniors, did register to vote for the first time in the 2020 election. So it's good to see that they are carrying with that preparedness and are excited to vote again. And I know that we talked to a bunch of freshman students too, who it will be their first time, and they were definitely excited. And I know that just as I was like a couple of years ago. So that is really fun to see. And I think just like the previous SGA president said, like it is really important to create lifelong voters. And I think that's also emphasized in the fact that the organization is nonpartisan. It's not like we're trying to create a political agenda here. It's like we really do want you just to be fulfilling that civic duty of voting, which I think is like a great aspect of the whole campaign.
Great.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, I've also seen a lot of enthusiasm from people. I think that this is an election that is easy to be a little enthusiastic about as far as midterm elections go. It's not my first time voting, but it is my first time voting in Pennsylvania. And I think a lot of students are really aware of how important this particular election is both with like media coverage on TV, but also just with the messaging we're trying to get out, which is like, this one is really consequential, but also all the midterm elections are consequential. I hope that this one being so huge, so important in people's minds, carries forward that idea that like voting in just presidential elections is not enough, but we also really want you to vote in local elections and midterm elections, and get really involved in ones like this, because this one might be huge, but they also all are very important.
I think you're absolutely right that the impact on a given population comes at all government levels, not just the federal, but also the state and the municipal. So I think that's a fantastic message to get out to folks. That all elections are important, not just the ones that we hear about all the time. So that's really great. We're actually coming up on our time. So I am going to once again thank Dr. Hally Levin, Anna O'Keefe, and Sylvia Alland for their time today, for joining us. Good luck. The election's only 4 days away at this point. So all very excited. There's going to be a lot of activity on campus that day, and I'm sure I'll probably see you both at Hally Circle.
All 30 students will be volunteering on election day to help Villanova students figure out where to go, and Villanova is kindly providing free shuttles to the various polling places. So again, reducing those barriers to make it easy for people to vote.
It's going to be a great day.
Yeah,
we're going to have good weather.
Yeah.
So
bring on Tuesday.
Yeah, we're ready.
Thank you again. And coming up in my next segment, I'll be talking with J.J. Brown, the Director of the Office of Student Involvement, and current SGA President, Jose Garcia Orozco. Stick around. Welcome back to Community Conversations. Joining me now to talk more about Let's Vote Nova is J.J. Brown, the Director of the Office of Student Involvement, and Jose Garcia Orozco, the President of Villanova's Student Government Association. Welcome to you both. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us, Hally.
This is great. I'm sure you heard the discussion we just had with Dr. Levin and her students.
Yes.
It's a very exciting time on campus. Let's Vote Nova is in its third year,
Correct.
I believe, of being on campus and engaging with students. So that's really all exciting stuff. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about Let's Vote Nova generally and how you both work with that initiative. I'll start with you, JJ. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you've been at Villanova, and what is the Office of Student Involvement?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having us. I've been at Villanova for 14 years and the director for the past 7, and I have the pleasure to work with student governments. So I work with Jose and some other students on SGA. And our office on campus, we work with support late night programming, student organizations, and as a part of student government, working with those initiatives specifically with Villanova's mission of engaging our students to be civically engaged on campus as part of our Augustinian mission. And one of our goals, and really with Let's Vote Nova, it's collaborative between like student involvement and really with Jose and other students on SGA, with the class that we were just talking to before, really focusing on like 3 main areas for Let's Vote Nova. And this was started from a student, within SGA years ago. And when she came up with this idea, she really came and ran with it and had a committee of students on SGA that came and ran with it. So my office really, we're that support, for them, like stepping up and stepping back, stepping up, letting the students, do all the work, and us continuing that, that work. And it's inspiring to work with Jose and the other students to keep it moving. So it's voter registration efforts, mobilization efforts. Registration, our campus is split into 4 different polling districts, getting students to understand which poll they need to go to. Mobilization, like getting them to go, to those polls, as well on election day, and getting volunteers.
It's a heavy lift, and I've seen it in action, and it's really impressive. Jose, I'll turn, now that we're in the conversation, I'll turn to you as well. If you want to introduce yourself and what year you are, what major you are, and feel free to jump in about Let's Vote Nova and what you've been working on this semester.
Yeah, so my name is Jose Garcia Orozco. I am a senior now, which is crazy to say, majoring in accounting with minors in real estate and business law. I'm from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, but originally from New Jersey. And I am the student body president this year. So I have the pleasure of working with JJ and then also other administrators on campus, and also helping lead the initiative called Let's Vote Nova. I was involved with like civic engagement in high school. So coming to Villanova and being involved with Let's Vote Nova wasn't anything uncommon to me. And my role is to just make sure that students are educated, especially like voting is confusing sometimes, and also voting, it's complicated. So making sure students know how to register to vote, especially like Pennsylvania is a very big swing state. It's a very important elections. But every year we're out there getting people informed about like how to vote, how to fill out the registration form, giving them stamps so they can do it themselves, even hosting programming. So like having some incentives so people can come and register to vote with us, or just making sure that they know where to go in their polling location. And even on election day, which is coming up on Tuesday, being out there with the shuttles and running the shuttles, about making sure where students know where they're going on the polling day, and then making sure they're registered as well, so they're not like wasting their time like, oh, am I registered or not, and then showing up to the polling location like, oh no, like things like that. So it's really exciting working with everyone, and even learning stuff every day, a little bit about our polling district, and also how to make sure students are more involved in the process as well.
That's exactly right. And I think that what SGA and Let's Vote Nova does so well, and we heard the students and Dr. Levin touch on this, is break down those barriers to voting that sometimes crop up, that, it takes a long time to get to a poll, or maybe you don't know where to go, or how do I register? I've moved, what do I do? And making sure that students know what to do. I think it's, you touched on it, and JJ, you can expound on this a little bit more. It's really great that the Office of Student Involvement makes the registration process as easy as possible by providing postage and providing transportation. Was that something that came out of the original, when Let's Vote Nova was originally developed, or is that something you worked on with the students? How did you come to see that as important?
One thing we talked about is like consistency, so this is something that the messaging and communication, so letting, students know, it's in Villanova's mission to, create civically engaged students. So we want to make sure that communications Villanova has resources, and we're resources. And it's not just for, 2019, 2020, 21, it's every year. And voting takes place, every November, not when students find it relevant to do so. Now, and personally, maybe people find it relevant to do so, but it's a continuous, call to get us to be civically engaged. So, for us, that goes communication, meeting students where they're at, so we'll do student organization trainings, we'll do stuff in our office. You and I have partnered together. You've done, student athletes, I've done our student org. So making sure that we have that consistency where students know we're a resource, whether they want to vote in Pennsylvania, and working through, okay, you're assigned to this residence hall. And because now you're in this residence hall, means that you're in this district, and you're in this district means that you can register, via mail, this way, and having signature with Pennsylvania on file. So working with them with Villanova's deadlines, which, influences where they vote and how they may vote, or if they want to vote in their home state, and how they can go to do that, whether it's, New Jersey, or whether that might be something with Connecticut or somewhere else. So getting them to think about that.
Absolutely. And there's so many options.
Exactly.
Students can, like you said, they can vote by mail, they can register at the hometowns. There's a lot of ways to navigate this. And it's crucially important that particularly their peers are helping them get through that process.
Exactly. It's one thing coming from me, but when like you're out there tabling and doing different events, it looks a lot different. It has much more impact.
It does.
Yeah.
You can call out to your friends and say, hey, come
exactly.
get registered. And I'll ask you the same question I asked the students in our previous segment. What's the enthusiasm level that you're seeing from your peers? Are they excited to vote? Do they have a plan to vote? Are they ready for Tuesday? Have you already voted? Are you a first-time voter? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, just like Anna mentioned, I think even when I was at the table one time, I like always call people over. People come up with to the table and just ask questions, and they want to vote. They're ready to vote. It's just something that's confusing, like, oh, like, should I vote here? Like, where should I vote? Or how do I do my mail-in ballot? So the drive is there. I've noticed ever since like Let's Villanova started, students are ready to vote, ready to get involved, especially for the youth has been more of a prominent focus as well, and getting people more involved. So students really want to get out there to vote, and like having Let's Villanova and having those accessibility to like the polling locations and like informing students so they're not going to like somewhere else to kind of ask these questions and like someone not knowing kind of the answers. It's really helpful to have these put these parameters in place so that students are able to go out to vote a little bit easier as well.
Absolutely. And that's really the key, just making sure that access is there. And folks, if they want to, are able to get there, register, do all the things that they need to do in as easy a way as possible, in a frictionless way as possible. And I think the work that SGA does is really incredible. Like I said, this is a heavy lift.
Yeah.
It's a big population. Remind me again, JJ or Jose, how many undergrad students are at Villanova?
I want to say like around 6,900, 7,000 undergrads.
Right.
So it's a big population with a lot of folks living on campus now,
right?
Which is really exciting,
right? And that's where we try to communicate students in different ways. Whether that's through social media, and through our website, which has important dates that we pull from the Pennsylvania website. Email communication that we send out at the beginning of the year, letting students know we're a resource. Ministry of presence, like we like to say, whether that's tabling, your idea with food trucks the one day, having, different programs that students can have to let you know it's like meeting them. That's what I mean, like meeting them where they're at, going to their meetings at night or, those sorts of things. So with our students, and then having a presence on election day itself, not only throughout the day, but even at night, because sometimes when classes are done, we're going to still offer those, shuttles, for them because that works best with their schedules. And our students are outstanding. I will have to say that, time and time again, like the level of dedication, commitment, caring that they show for one another. It's easy to get volunteers, I think has been the one thing that I've noticed over the years. Students just genuinely want to work with one another, which is such a blessing.
It really is. And I see it. And I'm a relatively newcomer to Villanova and the campus, but I've gotten to see that in action a lot this semester. And that's been really, really encouraging. We're coming up on our time, but I wanted to ask one more question of both of you, and JJ or Jose, I'll ask you to go first. What's the one thing you want to make sure that everyone knows ahead of Election Day, or just a final note as we head into next week?
Yeah, continue to get involved, continue to ask questions. Like voting, like I mentioned before, is not an easy process sometimes. And I'm really glad that Let's Villanova is an initiative that was started through SGA and is continuing every year through SGA. And I really hope that students are getting more involved and asking those questions and going out to the polls on election day, because our vote really matters. Whether one vote or whether many votes, your vote makes a difference. So
I think that's a great place to leave it. I think that's an excellent message to end on. Again, I want to thank you both, Jose Garcia Orozco, President of the Student Government Association, and JJ Brown, Director of the Office of Student Involvement.
Thanks, Hally.
Thanks, Hally.
You're welcome. My pleasure. For more information on news from campus or ways to get involved, please visit www.villanova.edu/neighbors.